Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to Friday morning at the Funhouse with Martin Popoff. Good morning, my friend.
Morning, sir. How are things? How's your weather?
Because we're doing this a little bit earlier than normal this morning, it's not quite as bright and sunny as it normally would be, or overcast, although it's hard to tell. I guess it's looking like it's going to be a good day. It was like 61 here yesterday.
I know, big drop in Toronto too. I meant to take advantage, get out jogging, but I think I'm going to go today, even though it's like 2 degrees out there. But yesterday it was 13 degrees Celsius out here. So,
so you didn't have the warm weather like we did. Yeah, it was.
Well, no, it was 13 probably is 60 or 70.
Okay, that's right. I forget we're on the difference.
It's pretty high, but yeah, it just dropped overnight too. It's not like we haven't had winter yet. I mean, it snowed like 5 times here or something already. We've had winter. It's just we haven't in the last few days. So
yeah, it's winter. It's back to fall again. It's spring. It's winter. It's just every day is like something different, which is fairly normal for here of the last bunch of years. It's nothing is consistent anymore. So whatever, right? Anyway, today we've got part 2 at our look at some of our favorite covers from Hipgnosis, who I think the count of albums that they worked on was like just under 200, right? In total, I think we've got just under 200.
Makes sense. I've seen there's a really nice thing on the net where I don't know how I found it, but you can just kind of see them all, pictures of them, no text. That was kind of cool.
I was looking at that as well. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's amazing when you look at all of them. And some, I think many of us like, oh yeah, we always knew that was a Hipgnosis album cover. And they're like, oh, that one was too. And you start to see like similarities in styles and things like that. And what's funny is like, since we've been doing these couple shows, I've been like looking at other album covers that I always thought were Hipgnosis, but actually weren't. And it's just supposed to show you how many album cover designers were like influenced and wanted to do something similar to what Hipgnosis were doing. So if you haven't watched part 1, please go back and check that out. We're going to give you each 10 more selections from the Hipgnosis portfolio, so to speak. And I'll have Martin kick us off with this first one.
Yeah, well, first off, on that subject that you just mentioned, I wanted to sort of get straight in my head. So Hipgnosis, I know we didn't really talk about this before, but they started with 1968. Essentially, Pink Floyd came to them and says, "Can you do Saucerful of Secrets?" So that started it all off. But then they break up in '83. Poe goes on, Aubrey Powell goes on to do other things, video and whatnot, but Storm keeps doing covers. So, we always like a shorthand for it is when we see those album covers in the 80s and 90s, you think they're Hipgnosis covers, but they're more Storm covers, Storm Thorgerson, right? And then his style, he kind of goes in a certain direction where it feels like Hugh Syme covers at that point. So Hipgnosis, I guess, officially stops in '83. Apparently, that's when they break up. But
that makes sense. That makes sense.
All right. So my first one, I'm going back to 10cc. We talked to 10cc last time. Deceptive Bends. I've always liked this one. I mean, most of the 10cc ones are pretty cool, but this is great. Deceptive Bends, and you've got the bendy lady here, and he's carrying her like that. And then on the back, this is kind of cool. You get them taking off the helmets, and there's some guys there. And then on the gatefold, you've got it like this. You've got I guess Lull and Cream, Godly and Cream, right? I guess on the inside like that. And then I always thought it was kind of interesting that that XTC had one like that. Remember we did the XTC show? So
yes.
The Black Sea. So you've got them in the old, but this isn't a Hipgnosis. But then I thought, okay, I'm in my XTC section. I wasn't going to pick this out. I hope this isn't one of yours. XTC Go 2, did you? Yeah, so XTC Go 2 is actually a Hipgnosis. This is their second album, and it's just all about explaining this is an album cover, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty amusing, but Hipgnosis didn't do much new wave. But that's not one of my choices. So 10cc for the diving suits. There you go.
That's one of my favorites, actually. I really love the Deceptive Bends cover. Yeah, that's it's pretty striking. I always dug that quite a bit. Good choice. All right, my first choice of the day. They worked with this band quite a few times. 3 albums, maybe 4. I almost picked the first album, but I think I like Moroccan Roll by Brand X a little bit more.
Nice.
Again, Moroccan Roll. So obviously this is supposed to be in Morocco. I don't know. I've never been there, but maybe that's what it looks like. But kind of interesting how you got this almost like secret agent person here, right? overseeing what's going on. It's a pretty kind of tongue-in-cheek album cover, and then picture of the band on the back. But pretty cool stuff. And then there you have a little closer identification of that, which I guess if you kind of really look carefully, there's all sorts of interesting things happening there on the original cover, because you've got like the little triangles all over the place, which I guess are supposed to signify something. These are these little kind of portals that I guess like bunkers, people looking at them. I don't know, whatever. It's pretty it's kind of odd, but I think it's pretty cool. It works pretty well. So that's
that's an amazing choice. That looks like one of those that could have been one of those famous ideas that they kept pushing on people till someone took one or whatever, right? And Brand X, you wonder, did they really have their eye on the ball of album covers so much, right? They seem like a band that could have been pushed on for that. So, all right, my next choice is Golden Earring to the Hilt. A picture of it here. Well, there we go. Does that have the other pictures inside?
Yeah. Let me pull it out of the.
Yeah, because for some reason I don't have a copy of this anymore. Yeah, so there you go. And there it is from my my Fade to Black book that I did with Johannes. This is with the big rubber cover that's out of print now, big coffee table book. So there you go. Isn't that cool? This is this narrative of this guy just getting executed in various ways and looking pretty unconcerned about the whole thing. Just a very, very humorous tableau of pictures. I love that shark one sitting there in the encased in concrete.
I know,
at the bottom of the sea as the shark goes by. But Golden Earring had that dark sense of humor, so it fit them perfectly. It really lined up with a lot of their very acerbic, nihilistic lyrics. Yeah,
it's basically the same photograph of the guy in all these different like torture settings. So here he's being hung up outside of a building. He's not concerned, like you said. Here he's on the train track. The train is coming. He's not concerned. Encased in concrete. He don't care. And then this one here, he's got the saw right here. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. This is one of the best. Yeah.
It's almost like he knows his crimes were so egregious that it's like, hey, I deserve all this, right?
I deserve to die five ways out of 10, right?
Yeah. Nice.
That's a good one. I forgot how clever that one is. That's a good choice. All right, my next one, and again, they work with this band on numerous occasions. I think I kind of like this one the best. The Pretty Things, Silk Torpedoes.
Yeah.
So if we kind of open the hole, there you get the hole right there. So torpedoes, there's the torpedo coming out of the ship. Silk torpedoes, there you got the good-looking woman dressed in silk. I'm guessing she almost looks like one of those in the army when they do the big gatherings with the troops and they bring the ladies out singing that kind of reminds me of that. But pretty neat, I think. They've got the one of their other albums also is the one with the famous rear view mirror that's got all the pictures of the band in there. But I think that's pretty cool. Nice use of colors. And what's interesting here is that the torpedo is like the same size as the ship, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but it's I don't even know what the analogy is supposed to be. So you got this torpedo getting shot out towards another ship. Is it supposed to lighten the blow because the pretty lady is on top of the torpedo? I don't know. It's kind of wacky, but whatever. It works, I guess.
See, now I don't know who illustrated that, but I was reading that I guess when they have illustration done, it's usually George Hardy that does the illustration. So I guess he was one of the main dudes over there. All right. So my next one, I'm going to go with the last one. For some reason, I don't have a copy of this either. Hawkwind, Cork, Strangeness, and Charm. It's terrible because it's actually my favorite Hawkwind album. Thank you for pulling that out there. And there it is in the book. And this one is quintessential Hipgnosis, where they go all out for the band logo. They come up with a new custom cool band logo that doesn't get used again. And there you go with the whole UFO lights out, UFO obsession sort of dials and all that, including UFO force in a certain way. But then again, all the darting around little electricity marks and lines and things like that, which is another Hipgnosis.
I do want to point out this character right there who's supposed to be watching what's going on in the machine.
Pretty cool. Homer Simpson at the nuclear plant, right? Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's my favorite Hawkwind album, and that's one of my favorite Hawkwind album covers. Although Hawkwind album covers are more associated with Barney Bubbles, who tragically committed suicide. He was a very troubled soul, and he did all the classic early Hawkwind stuff, and then he moved into new wave and did like Elvis Costello and the Damned. Music for Pleasure and a bunch of cool stuff there. He had a very distinct style later that was different from his earlier style. But yeah, Barney Bubbles.
Yeah, this has got kind of like you mentioned, the UFO feel. I, Robot from Alan Parsons. There's actually quite a few more that kind of have this kind of feel. I really like it. Very distinctive for Hipgnosis. Yeah. All right. So I decided to pull a really weird. Well, I was going to say I decided to pull a really weird one out, although I think half of these we can kind of fall into that category. The kind of more obscure art rock bands audience, the House on the Hill.
Right.
So this one, I'm going to have to pull this one out because this is also one of those ones where you have to really look at what's going on here. So, again, the House on the Hill, I think the kind of thought process on this is a very nondescriptive, normal household. But then as you start to look closer, you realize that's really not the case. So it's almost like they're mannequins on the front, right? Yeah. And then here you've got down the hallway, you've got some guy who's obviously looks like he's been knocked out by the butler and being dragged away, right? But then the closer you look, it's like there's all these really interesting things on the mantle and hanging up on the wall, which is really kind of cool, really different.
Yeah. Nice.
And in a way, and again, I'm not quite sure. And then you got more stuff on the inside. I'm not quite sure how this represents the music on the album, because this is like a really artsy kind of pop prog album, so to speak, but pretty cool cover, I think. And again, a lot of these Hipgnosis covers you really have to kind of look carefully at and see all the little things that are going on, because usually there's little clues, so to speak, on the cover as
Cool. Well, then I'm going with this one next. Audience lunch.
Oh, there you go.
Same sort of thing, right? The exact same sort of Stepford Wives 50s Led Zeppelin presence looking, kind of spooky, scary looking gals there. And the big swoopy this, and it's just and Lunch and House on the Hill. I mean, it adds kind of a mystique to this band, and they're kind of just like an acoustic, like you say. I went and played this album again because I thought I don't remember what this sounds like. And it's kind of like an acoustic pop sort of thing, like a less humorous version of 10cc maybe. And just kind of an odd sound to these guys, a bit proggy, but I like the back too, because that is classic old style Hipgnosis, type styles and layout where they do this. They do a different design for side 1 and side 2. I've seen that in a few places, and cool type styles and stuff, so they put a lot of work into it. But this is 72, so this is early Hipgnosis as they go through all their various phases there. So
good stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they worked on their other album as well, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
All right. Kind of along more kind of obscure UK prog, Quatermass, self-titled debut, the one and only. I love dinosaurs. So again, you've got this futuristic looking, whatever this is supposed to be. I'm not really sure. Is it between two buildings? Perhaps. Is it the inside of something? Perhaps. And you've got these pterodactyls flying around. One's green, the rest are gray. I don't know. Very strange. Yeah. And again, what does it signify? Like I said, it's like if you look at it carefully, it could be like two buildings, right, that are taken from down below. But then it could be the inside of some room, and here's the floor, and here's the ceiling. So it all depends on kind of what your interpretation of it is. Pretty cool though. Yeah, pretty cool. And a great band, by the way. This is such a killer album.
Great prog album too, and that cover art just even adds to the mystique of it, right?
Yeah, totally.
Legendary band. And more than half the people call them Quatermass, right?
Yeah, Quatermass, yeah. And for those of you watching who have never listened to this album, Black Sheep of the Family, which was a song on the very, very first Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow album, which is the song I think that got Ritchie into wanting to put together Rainbow, was originally done by this band. So it's on this album. So
Yep.
guitarless band, all Hammond organ, and very, very cool stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so my next choice is Genesis, and then there were three. So there's the vinyl of it, and there's the sealed 8-track of it.
Whoa, nice.
There we go. Yeah. What do we got the back? Not much on the back. But again, yeah, I love this. I love this quirky, strange little, let's green in this and then go over to that. And it's the classic Genesis logo, which is what lamb is. Does it show up on lamb first of all? I think so.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a great, and this is classic sort of Hipgnosis. They do this time delay light thing sometimes, and you've got the three guys, they're all in very artsy with the dramatic sky, and then you've got the gatefold over to the back, which is really cool. Song titles up in the great colors too, very dramatic.
Yeah.
And then the inside is just classic as well. You've got all the lyrics, and then you've got Genesis done in that light thing. Sorry, when I'm showing these, I move away from the mic, and I'm sure I've gone quiet there. But anyways, there you go. So yeah, that's a really cool album cover for the band's getting smaller, but it's big, dramatic looking, proggy, regal, royal feeling album cover art to compensate for the fact that the band is shrinking, right? So
yeah. And Hipgnosis worked with the band 4 albums in a row. So it started on Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Trick of the Tail, which is very untraditional looking Hipgnosis, and then Wind and Wuthering also is very different, and then that one, which I think is more of what we'd expect from them.
Yep.
But they're all really cool. All really cool. All right. Speaking of cool, I really like this one a lot. Another one of those kind of like you got to kind of look at everything that's going on. Pyramid by Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
Classic, right?
Great choice.
Yeah. And again, you got the guy in the room, and what's going on with him. We don't know what's he watching on the telly. Got to look at the things that are on the night table, but then, you got, it doesn't end there. And then you got the inside, which, I mean, look at that. That's classic Hipgnosis right there.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty neat.
Nice.
And again, they worked with these guys quite exclusively.
Looked amazing.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of the first album and iRobot, like we showed last time. And good stuff. I like this one a lot. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. My next choice is let's go with Sammy Hagar musical chairs.
There you go.
So again, classic, UFO obsession steelies, we used to call them as kids when we played marbles, right? And then again, total custom, a lot of thought put into a new logo. Bill Church explained to me, they were trying to be a little more artsy with things. Sammy gets a haircut. You rarely see him with that short hair like that, right? You get the chairs flying around, musical chairs. You get very Hipgnosis covers in that sort of I can't remember what that's called. That's like colorizing a photo, right? When you do that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So hand tinted, I suppose, hand tinted photo probably there. And then on the back, you've got the guys playing musical chairs. This was filmed in a dance studio. I think, if I remember correctly, this is Storm's wife's dance studio.
Oh, really?
Down the street from something like that. But they're playing musical chairs. The album's called Musical Chairs, and that signifies also that the band members in this band kept changing all the time. So it's a bit of a joke on hey, we can't keep a stable lineup. But yeah, and then also Hipgnosis did red, where everything on the street scene is all in red, for Sammy's signature color thing. So, this is them going to the UK, and then as I mentioned last episode, sometimes when these bands would go to the UK, they're recording in the UK and Hipgnosis close by, and they just take care of it all at once.
All in one shot, yeah. Although that haircut for Sammy just doesn't work.
No.
I always forgot that. I'm like, oh yeah, he went through that little period, right? All right. So Martin was talking before about kind of like the last days or the last, year or two of the kind of Hipgnosis partnership. And I wanted to pull one that's from the very tail end here. And this one, I have two in my list, which actually feature, the artists themselves, which, as Martin just showed, there was one with Sammy. Here's one, Tug of War, Paul McCartney.
Right. Yeah.
Which again, very, very different looking. Again, we're moving into, obviously the new decade, and this kind of exemplifies what we would see on a lot of album covers in the 80s. But again, the tug of war, you've got the red and the blue here, right? McCartney kind of like, all right, going through each ear, so to speak. And then this album really musically is also somewhat of a tug of war, because I think here Paul is really embracing working with other artists and doing, more updated 80s style music. I think this was like a little bit of a transition album for him. And I think the artwork, the cover really kind of hits on that. But and I don't know what the last one that they worked on was, but this is towards the tail end of that partnership there. So yeah, Tug of War.
Nice. Okay. My next one is Rainbow Difficult to Cure. I've always loved this album cover. And as Pete correctly mentioned last episode, this was one that might have shown up for Black Sabbath Never Say Die. It was in the running for being for Never Say Die. I think it's an amazing cover. I love the lighting of this photograph. It's a very artsy photograph. Goes great with the title Difficult to Cure. I think the text looks good in red there, nice and understated. And then on the back, you've got the continuation of the scene, where they're all looking in on the patient there, real dramatic. I just think it's a great design, start to finish. What do we got on the inside? And then you've got, stuff like this.
Yeah.
Hipgnosis always like their sort of technology and their angles and their shapes. And it's just a really beautiful sort of, melange of these medical instruments in with the lyrics and stuff. So yeah, great album cover. Again, I guess towards the tail end, right? 1981. So
yeah, and that one's an interesting one, because I think that one works in both instances, right? So difficult to cure. So you've got the patient has this, disease or whatever that's difficult to cure, but we got this whole team. You're in good hands. It also works well for Never Say Die. Someone who maybe think that they're going to die based on what they got, but we've got this huge team of doctors. You're not going to die because look who we've got here behind us. So I think it works in both instances.
I would love to see some graphic artists. Like, I can't do this. You know what I do. I mean, lately I've been doing like pencil crayon on black paper and all the, a lot of drawing, and then just pencil on white paper and the flame and telepath, blah, blah, blah. But so I've never done digital art, but wouldn't it be cool to have somebody, maybe one of your viewers, turn in, switch all the text around on the Black Sabbath and the Never Say Die, and just and show what it looks like with the other text on the front and back of those, and see what they look like. Right.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm trying to picture it right now. It's like, well, wouldn't that have been cool? Huh?
Yeah.
Both great album covers though. All right, so kind of like with my last one, which actually had the artist, and actually then the Sammy Hagar as well. Here's one, and I think this is really cool, and you'll see some similarities here to some of the other ones. So this is Todd Rundgren, Back to the Bars. So there is Todd, and then you got this cool kind of thing, which is, that sort of like kind of shows up on lots of these album covers. That whole like kind of representation of like movement, right?
Yeah.
And here, and again, what Back to the Bars, this is basically a live album, so I don't know what the concept here has really much to do with.
That's kind of the same thing, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff moving around, floating.
Yep. And then in the background, you've got this kind of like almost like kind of desert looking scene, except it's green, so it's kind of interesting. And Todd looking away, and pretty interesting stuff here. And I think this is the only album that Todd worked with Hipgnosis on.
So. Cool. Excellent. Okay. My next one is Yes, Tormato, right? And, the funny story about this, I mean, it was going to be named Yes Tor, about, a high peak close to where they are kind of thing in England. But then the funny thing is, so they had this guy with the divining rods, and they spent a lot of money on this picture, and nobody was really happy with it. And then the story goes that Rick Wakeman didn't like it and threw the tomato at it. And I think Steve Howe says that somebody from Hipgnosis didn't like it and threw a tomato at it, and that insulted Steve. And then Alan White says Poe, Aubrey Powell threw the tomato at it. So it's, and then the last story is the band threw tomatoes at it. So it's so weird when you interview all these artists and they sincerely tell you some long detailed story and you go, are they lying or are they not remembering? How does nobody remember who actually
they're all different, right?
Tomatoes at a picture, right? I mean, that's something you would remember, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was the design company or the band, you'd think you'd at least remember that much, right? But I guess you get gray areas when nobody quite remembers who from the band was around, and one of them threw it, and one of them, or maybe it was the band and the guys together, and then for that reason. But it's cool. So it's a photograph, and the tomato is looking very, very 3D.
Yeah.
And then on the back, same kind of thing. Looking very 3D on top of a flat photograph. Great photograph of the band, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
They never looked cooler than that. Glasses on them, right? But yeah, I think that's a great album cover. And then, as I said last episode, it really feels stylistically a lot like 10cc Bloody Tourists in a way, right? Which also continues on to the back. So yeah, I always liked that cover. But a lot of people were very disgusted by that cover, just the idea of this exploded tomato, and is it too whimsical for yes, blah 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 kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's somewhat of a pretty big departure from their album covers of old, right? You got the Roger Dean covers, and even really different than going for the One, which was also a Hipgnosis album cover. But even though that was, initially it's like, wow, they're not working with Roger Dean anymore, but that is a really interesting cover. And then you got Tormato, which is just bizarre. And then them on the back, they definitely look cool. Do they look like Yes? Because they got like, the sunglasses on, these like fake leather jackets. That's not Yes, right? But they do look cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How about the debut from the Electric Light Orchestra? Very simple here.
Yeah.
This is like, it's just the light bulb and this big, brightly lit room. Interestingly enough, the room is like really super bright, but yet the light bulb is not on.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting there. And then, of course, you got to have the guys in their like pirate outfits there. Because, again, this first album is very kind of classical, just, very different sounding, very chamber rock. And, we got to go for them, an old style photo of them on there, which kind of conveys the music a bit. But yeah, I always kind of like that album cover. And it's funny because they have two different, they have this version and then the US version, both done by Hipgnosis. But the US version has it's like a space, like a deep dark space depiction with the light bulb kind of shooting through space like a spaceship. So both pretty cool, both very different. I don't think they have the other one in here. No, they do not. But yeah, there you go. First ELO.
Cool. Nice. All right. My next one is Nazareth Rampant. Nazareth didn't work with Hipgnosis much. Maybe this was the only one. I'm not sure. But it's pretty odd that they did, and it's not a very Hipgnosis-y looking thing. It's a big dramatic illustration. This is using more than 4-color process print because the Nazareth is truly in actual PMS Pantone gold. So it's a gold print in there, metallic ink. And yeah, just this great this great illustration of a guy that looks a little bit like Manny, but it's not Manny, I suppose. And then the back is that it's framed here, but the back is that kind of wood panel thing with Rampant burned into it. Remember the little wood burner sets we'd get as kids? Always burn ourselves with them, right?
Yep.
So that's really weird. It's like a whimsical, a real casual thing, yet it's got this grandiose front album cover, which makes the album sound a little more mysterious and dark, I think, because it's such a strange album cover for them. And you're not, they're not using the Nazareth logo on here, which is on everything to date, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Nazareth Exercises, Razamanaz, Loud and Proud, Hair of the Dogs. After this, it doesn't use it, but I mean, all the first ones use it, and it's not used on here. But great album cover.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that album is very different from all the other albums around it, because that's more of like kind of like an acoustic type album, very mellow, which is really, really really different for them and kind of a departure. But the fact that they, they had that first album, which is kind of, bluesy and heavy in spots, and then they do this, and then everything else after that is, kind of more in the same line. And actually Hipgnosis did the Close Enough for Rock and Roll album.
Oh, right. That's right.
That
Yeah. Which I hate. I hate that cover. I've never liked that cover. It's
yeah.
just too depressing for me. It's just weird, that dark and grainy, and coming from Canada, and knowing what an association they had with Canada, and having that Vancouver shakedown on it and stuff, it always reminded me of a Vancouver scene. So it just seems rainy and depressing, to me.
Yeah, it's kind of, again, the cover really plays off of the title of the album, because Close Enough for Rock and Roll. So it's got this, obviously the inside of like a limo, and all the fans are outside, and almost like that's as close as you guys are going to get, right? Because we're a rock and roll band, but it just doesn't look good. Right.
Yeah, I know, it's a great concept, but the look, it just depresses me, and it makes me get depressed at the music on the inside too. I've never been a big fan of the music of that one. So
yeah, I love the title track. I think that's great. The rest of it's okay, but all right. Well, we had to pick one of these, so I figure let's go with Animals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is just classic
for the.
There you go. Yep. Another one of those albums where they must have had some deep conversations with the band about what the album was all about, because they went and, the whole concept of animals is pretty much depicted here. You've got the factories and the pig floating up in the background, and it's all, all about the depressing state of what's going on in Britain at the time and all that. And that's really what the Animals, the concept, is all about, and the different clashes amongst the different parts of society and all that. So they work with Pink Floyd so much. Wish You Were Here and Dark Side of the Moon and Metal and Saucer Full of Secrets. They're all really, really good covers, and they all look really different from each other, which I think if you really want to go and experience the full range of what Hipgnosis could do, just take a look at the Pink Floyd catalog. Right there, you get all sorts of different flavors. But I always dug Animals. Pretty cool. So I wanted to make sure we included one of them. So
yeah, that's an amazing one. That's definitely really cool. All right. My last one's kind of a surprising one. A lot of people wouldn't know, but Canadian band from the prairies, Street Heart, with Under Heaven, Over Hell. And there's the sealed 8-track version of that. There we go. So I've interviewed these guys a few times, and wrote up the story in that old Yale Metal series, which is mostly out of print, but they're kind of like a hard rock AOR band. Matt Furnett here ended up in Loverboy. Kenny Shields, an amazing singer, sadly no longer with us. I think he died of cancer. Known to have one of the greatest bass players and rhythm sections in Spider Sinave. The album's got kind of like progressively not as good. This is their is this their second album? First album? Second album, I believe. Anyways, a cool Hipgnosis cover with the mix of the black and white photo and the color, and a little bit of a storyline. This guy's coming up with the flowers here in the graduation suit, and there's a male hand here lighting her cigarette for her here. You turn on to the back, and there's she's got pinned up pictures of all the band on her door. And a guy over here. So yeah, very, very Hipgnosis-y feeling, and just really odd. I don't know I can't remember the story of why or how they ended up getting a Hipgnosis album cover on an obscure Canadian band from the prairies, but there you go. But yeah, some really fairly kind of heavy rocking songs from this band, but it's also a little bit funky at times, and yeah, the rhythm section is just crushing from Street Heart. And the early stuff is actually pretty kind of cool.
I've never heard them before.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. Again, yeah, very known for the rhythm section. Kenny, they were very known for being an amazing live band. I never saw them live for some reason. They didn't really come out Eastern Canada very often. It was really weird. They were kind of just regional. They just stuck around the West. So.
I will definitely check that out. All right. My last one for today. Again, a kind of a weird one, but it works and it's kind of iconic. Pieces of Eight by Styx.
Nice.
So again, Pieces of Eight, the only thing, or in all these decades since I've been listening to this album, the only thing I can kind of piece together here is that you've got the four ladies. Each of them are wearing the Stonehenge earring. I'm assuming now, maybe I'm wrong to assume, that each one of them is wearing two. So that would be 8 in total, pieces of 8. And obviously the earring is depicted from, it's almost the exact replica of this particular stone here. So pieces of 8, I don't know. That's about as far as I can get on this.
Those are the Eastern Island things, right? Easter Island.
Easter Island, yes. I said Stonehenge. Sorry, I meant Easter Island. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but it's one of their iconic album covers from the band, and I think it's a pretty cool one. And
yeah, I remember sitting with Tommy Shaw looking at that, and he was saying, as I get older, these ladies are starting to look real nice to me. So
and you really, I mean, that's the interesting thing too, because you really only see the face of one of them, and that's the one here, and it's half. All the other ones you see just the ear is actually, that's about it. You don't see anything else. So you don't know how old they are or anything. I mean, this one obviously has gray hair here, but here she's blonde, brunette, and I don't know. Interesting album cover. I personally, for me, I would have liked to have seen more of the Easter Island background, because I think what you do see is pretty neat. But just obviously they went and got the picture and then superimposed all this stuff on there. But pretty cool album cover, I think.
And Clear Blue Sky, right? That's a Storm thing, and eventually Storm, ironically, that's his name, but Clear Blue Sky. But later on, I was looking at a bunch of the Storm. Yeah, and there you get the tilted or tinted photo idea, right? The hand tinted sort of idea. Yeah. But you look at a lot of the stuff that Storm did in the 80s and 90s, and there's those kind of desert scenes or whatever with the clear blue sky in so many of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, how many did we even show today? I mean, it's like let's see. I mean, we got pretty much the blue sky on Back to the Bars.
Yeah.
Right, I think that might be the only one out of what I picked today that has a sky. No, actually, I think my Rock and Roll also.
He does that a lot later, right? Well, at 10cc, you got Clear Blue Sky there. Street Heart, Clear Blue Sky up in the corner. Tornado, a little bit stormy, but again, sky. Sammy Hagar, sky. Wow, yeah, a lot of these, right?
My Rock and Roll, here we go, Blue Sky.
Yeah. You get sky in the Genesis one, not clear, but nighttime sky. Yeah, pretty wild. But yeah, you think of Anthrax and Mars Volta and the later Pink Floyd ones, and what was the other one? I think he did Audio Slave, and yeah, it's usually out in the desert, sitting there, some sort of weird, sculpture or whatever in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of cool ones. There were others I wanted to pull. I kind of like the UFO Phenomenon album cover too, which is again the big blue sky, right? You got this very kind of almost fake looking family with all the pastel colors, and look up and there's the UFO up in the sky, just kind of like hi, just moving its way across, which is kind of neat. And there's so many others, a lot of really.
And that's a true hand tinted photo, right?
Yeah,
it's probably a black and white photo, completely colorized, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it definitely looks. The whole thing looks fake. It looks looks like one of those like 30s classic films that they colorized in the 80s, and then you watch and you're like, that just doesn't look right. That doesn't match. This does not compute, right? Yeah. So, all right. Well, there you have it, everybody. Another look at some of the classic album covers of Hipgnosis. In the comments below, let us know what you think of some of these covers that we showed off today, as well as any that we didn't talk about in this series that you think are worth mentioning, and get the conversations going below. So Martin, what's going on over with the Contrarians, the podcast, the books? What do you got happening over there?
Yeah, Contrarians, we had a panel discussion on UFO mechanics go up recently. We had our Bad Company regular episode on Dangerous Age, I think this was called, went up with Tim Derling. My last History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff podcast, so audio, episode 129 was about what did I call it? Those electronic drums sound good. So it's about good sounding electronic drums that I thought in classic hard rock. And then otherwise, any of the books that are available, you can see them all at martinpopoff.com.
Cool. And speaking of bad company, that's another band that Hipgnosis worked pretty much with. I
That's
mean,
right.
they have a whole bunch
Yeah.
of them too. I almost picked Straight Shooter, that one, and
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a bunch of them. Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, everybody hop on over to martinpopoff.com and check out all the Martin's got going on over there. And let's see, what do we have happening here? Stay tuned on Sunday for album homework assignment. We've got Jim Bakke going up against Louis Nasser. That's happening Sunday morning. And then tune in on Monday night. You'll see Martin and myself and a whole bunch of other people getting together here on Zoom, on YouTube to wish everybody a happy holidays. And we're all going to be talking about our favorite moment on Sea of Tranquility, either that we participated in or that we have watched and we really like a lot. So that's kind of hard for me because I've been on every single one of them. So I have the hardest job of all, trying to pick one moment. But so that's coming up on Monday night, and Tuesday in the Prague seat. Wednesday is a new album review day, What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. Thursday, the Monsters Den, and then Martin and I are back next Friday with a very special episode that should be a lot of fun. Martin, we might as well spill the beans now. So I know I have, I'm not sure if Martin has yet or not, but the recent album from Deep Purple, which is called God, what the hell is that called again?
Turning to Crime.
Turning to Crime, that's right. Which is basically their covers album, which some people really like a lot, some people don't care for much at all. So Martin and I had a discussion about the album, and if we were to direct the band to do something completely different, what would we tell them to do? So we're going to reimagine that album next week, and we're going to give you what we would have liked to have seen. So stay tuned for that, and a whole lot more here on the channel. For Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.